Now, our final guest in the session is joining us to discuss how technology and sustainability can and indeed must coexist, and she's incredibly well-placed to do this. We're going to be welcoming Axelle Lemaire. Axelle, if you're backstage there, come on up. Axelle is the Group Head of Corporate Responsibility and Sustainability at Sopra Steria. Axelle, come on up, welcome. Thank you for being with us here.
Hello, Kristen. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
It's great to have you. Now, many of our French friends in the audience may know you from your political career, but let me just share a few details so that everyone else joining us understands who you are. You were elected to the French National Assembly in 2012, and in May 2014, you were appointed as the Minister responsible for Digital Affairs. But today, and here now with us, you're the Group Head of Corporate Responsibility and Sustainability at Sopra Steria. You joined them in October 2023. Very recently. Yes. So can you tell us, please, what is your role as Group Head of Corporate Responsibilities and Sustainability mean? What does it mean to you?
In one sentence, it's putting sustainability challenges with innovation in order to invent solutions. In a few more sentences, we're tackling issues around the environment, especially making sure that we comply with demanding regulations, right? But also doing everything possible to meet our carbon reduction target. So that's net zero by 2040. We also work on the social side because we're convinced that making sure that our employees and people feel good in their working environment is a condition also to foresee and follow the SDGs. And then we also work on the solidarity or work with local communities side. So I'll give you just one example. Sopra Steria has trained and helped to fund education for over 50 children in India. So these are very concrete projects, right?
And what does it actually mean to you as an individual? You've told us about your corporate role.
What it means to me? Well, it's a good summary of my career, actually, because I've always been driven by the general interest, but also a little frustrated about things that I couldn't achieve in the past. So I'll give you one example. I was in the French government during the COP21 in Paris. That was a huge, important moment. But at the time, the digital sector, the industry itself, wasn't too much aware of the challenges. It was very difficult to embark them. So, of course, we launched a label such as the Green French Tech, and we were trying to support the green tech ecosystem. But that wasn't enough. And what I find in a private company like Sopra Steria is people and a project and a strategy that is very reactive, and it's a fertile ground to build on in order to make sure that real and concrete solutions emerge. And what I also like, I must say, is to work directly with business units and operations, because the stake is really to move the organization, and I would say to move the economy as a whole towards sustainability. And the condition for that is to make sure that it's really embedded into the operations. So we, in my team, work really directly in contact with salespeople, for instance, and people who will concretely deliver the projects for our clients. So it's not only about regulation, it's really also about very concrete business projects that we're working on.
Okay, and what I'm hearing from you is that you see your focus as not just being in the organization, but also, as you said, with all the stakeholders and the suppliers, that entire ecosystem there. So you're now working across both tech and sustainability. What are your greatest points of concern and therefore attention with regards to these two, and why?
So if I start sharing my concerns, the list is long, and I hope I won't sound too pessimistic. But there's a reality, and it's not very often said. So I feel I'm now in a position where I can say things, right? And so there's one reality, is that the digital sector weighs for 3 to 4% of the global gas emissions worldwide, and that's more than the civil aviation sector. Did you know this? And so that means that it's polluting, and we think of it as being immaterial, virtual. You know, I used to say we will produce dematerialized public services. That's untrue. Actually, it's online public services, but it's not because they're digital that they're not material, right? So I think we have to change the way we look at the reality of the pollution emissions of the sector. That's for one thing. The other thing is we're at the moment in human history where the pace is increasing. Let's take Gen AI, for instance. It took Instagram 2.5 years to reach 100 million users. It took ChatGPT 2.5 months to onboard 100 million users. So, and they found their first 1 million in 5 days. The pace is becoming faster, right? So, and I was visiting ChangeNOW, and I saw a car that is more or less being deconstructed. So we're relearning how to build a car that would emit less than how it was initially invented by Auguste Otto back in 1866. And so what I would like to see for the digital technologies is to make sure that we don't wait until the 23rd century to start producing and building IT equipment and smartphones that are less emitting and also consume less energy, water, and mineral resources. And when you actually look at the figures and when you look at how the equipments are being produced in China, and the minerals extracted in the Republic of Congo, in Venezuela, the amount of water that is being used without consideration for natural resources, it is a problem for the industry, not even to talk about the waste. And you know, some countries are used as garbage for our electronic waste nowadays. And so I believe, even though Sopra Steria is not directly concerned, I don't have to, speak up on that agenda. But we're part of a value chain. We need to work alongside our suppliers, and they are IT equipment suppliers, and they are cloud providers, to make sure that, it's more virtuous. So this is a kind of call to the whole value chain. Industries are getting organized now, while the digital industry needs to get together to face these real challenges.
Certainly, because as you said, this is something that we've been thinking about through, say, the energy or the clothing or even the car industry for very many years, but the digital industry maybe not so much. Can you tell us about a specific example? For example, you mentioned the impact on the resources and the waters, a specific example that illustrates the impact that AI is having on our territories.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know what? It's difficult to give real figures, and the reason why it's so difficult is because we miss standardized data. And again, the sector, and we provide digital services, so we don't, at Sopra Steria, produce equipment or provide cloud services. But the sector as a whole doesn't share data. And so it's difficult to answer your question, and we're all about, open source everywhere. The reality is that there's opacity in the production of data about the environmental impact of digital technologies. That being said, we do have some researchers. I'll quote just one from Stanford University in June of last year, 2023. They compared 10 AI models, and they eventually concluded that it was impossible to calculate the real footprint because of the lack of standardized data. But we know from a lawsuit that took place in Iowa, in Des Moines, which is where ChatGPT trains their ChatGPT-4 models, right? that, and they were sued by local residents, that the impact of the only training of ChatGPT-4 on the local city council was 6% of the water consumption of the whole county. So that's the kind of figures that we know we're looking at the moment.
And figures that aren't so widely known, as you say. It's quite opaque at the moment. And in fact, just coming back to what Ritu and Jean-Philippe was saying this morning, earlier on this session about the sort of the common standards and the transparency with the data there. So let's think about, sort of technology then and sustainability. Friend or foe, that's all pretty binary. Different people can use different sets of data to make their calls. Why is there such a blur when it comes to identifying the pros and the cons of technologies and indeed also AI?
And I agree, I don't feel so much at ease with that friends or foes things, because the reality is not binary, right?
We need both.
We need both, and thanks to transparency, I believe. But let me ask you a question, because Sopra Steria published a poll today about this connection between the environment and technology. So the question asked was, do you think that artificial intelligence will play an important role in the fight against global warming? So will it help the fight against? So what would you say? Will it play a positive role? If you think that yes, it will, please raise your hands.
Maybe about 15% of
50%, yes. Well, you're a little bit more skeptic than the general public, because the overall opinion was 58% believe that it's going to play a positive role. So I was saying I don't want to sound too pessimistic, and I wouldn't be here if I was pessimistic, because when I look at the 1,000 solutions that are being exhibited, and when I talk to the project owners, I just think it's amazing what we are likely to do to address climate change. So maybe what we need to define together is the conditions under which AI should be used. So in my opinion, I've tried to think about this, and I think social innovation is key, because we need to use even not before or while thinking R&D and technology. See, what is it going to be used for, and is this going to be useful? So that means raising the question of the ROI, the return on investment, but also the return on impact. What's going to be the positive impact of using AI? So that's the first condition, I would say. Another one is, but we've addressed it already, is transparency. Making sure that we know how to calculate and measure the reality of the impact, and that we share the information and the science that we have about those experiences. And then I would say use innovation and work along social innovation ecosystems, and not only in labs, and not only between scientific engineers that not always, but sometimes won't question the aim and will only question the way to execute. So I think these are the right ways to address this question of AI, yes, and we know it will play as an accelerator of finding solutions to combat climate change, but under which conditions?
Okay, so it's not a friend or foe thing. These needs to collaborate together. We need the transparency in here. You also mentioned about sort of the collaboration between different people, the industrial actors, the researchers, the governments and the policies. Are you optimistic, pessimistic? Do you still hope that tech is an element of sustainability? And can you give us maybe an example of what gives you hope there?
Yes, well, the example, I will take it at Sopra Steria, because it's people within the company which have developed internal tools, open source, together with players in the outside ecosystem to measure for our clients the reality of the impact of our IT systems and the systems of our clients. So one of these tools is called G4IT. It's green for IT. It's available, it's open source, and this really is based on the commitment of employees who believe that it's necessary to test, measure, and share knowledge about the tools that they develop. And another one is a kind of G4IT turned AI. It's called EcoMind AI. It was developed in Rennes, in Brittany, and along with Boavista, if you know that player in the French digital ecosystem. And it's a tool to, again, measure the impact of AI on a project. And another thing that we're doing as part of our AI program, which is called RAISE with a big A and a big I, and I think that Yves is in the audience and he supervises that program, is first we train people, and not only the tech and geeks, right? We train employees about the use of AIs, and when we train them, we try to identify the ways to reduce the energy consumption by design. So we're trying to use AI in eco-design ways. So for instance, we know that it's when training the models that the energy consumption is the most intense. So we're trying to develop ways of training models that are less consumptive. And finally, we're trying to identify the best use cases for our clients that will be about not only adapting to the, not only attenuating and mitigating the current situation, but also adapting to it. So let me come back. I don't know if we have time.
We've got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
To the CSRD. CSRD is a regulation, right? For some, it's a nightmare. It's the Corporate Sustainability Directive reporting. And it relies on 2 feet. And basically, one is about attenuating the impact, and the other one is about adapting or mitigating. In this adaptation stage, the second foot, the second leg, we're helping clients to invent new solutions. And we need digital technologies, right, as layers, as basis and foundations for these new solutions. But we're good at attenuating. We're good at making sure that we're trying to reduce the impact of technologies. What we need together also as actors in a larger industry to work on, and where we need to be better, is really on adapting with new solutions. And so we're doing that by developing very concrete use cases with our clients, which have a positive ROI, in the sense return on impact. What we want and what we're looking for is the ROI, the return on impact and investment.
Return on impact and investment. And Axelle, thank you so much. I just want to pick up the threads that I heard from you, and in fact have heard throughout this session. So definitely the transparency and awareness of the data, the impact of the digital sector. Also very much then about the sort of common standards coming together, but consistently throughout this session we have heard about the use cases and where and how AI is being applied smartly for that ROI, as you just mentioned. Thank you so much, Axelle. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us here. I hope that this session has given you some thoughts, inspirations, but also ideas as to how to we can properly use AI for social innovation and environmental impact. Thank you so much to you all. Thank you, Axelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.